This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas, and I've got one more project for the Ultimate Sweater Machine. This is a small 30-inch baby blanket, and to make it, you will need 2 balls of yarn in contrasting colors. I used Karen's Simply Soft in a white and an orchid color. And this is not the same as my circular swirl baby blanket, which you could definitely make on the Ultimate Sweater Machine. That one's made in sections. This one, however, is made with short rows. To begin our baby blanket, you cast on using a worsted weight, that is American 4-ply yarn, over 50 needles. Use the cast on weight and then the elastic cord and then 8 rows of waste yarn. And then I use some Omega nylon cord for a row of ravel cord. You can also buy ravel cords from Bond America and from knitting machine dealers, but I thought it was wonderful buying a 300-yard roll of ravel cord inexpensively at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to thread the machine. I have key plate 2 in there and knit 1 row from left to right. And then I'm changing immediately to the lilac colored yarn. I cut this first row of white yarn, leaving enough to sew the beginning to the end of the blanket later. So that's leaving about 4 times the width of the knitting. And I'm moving my clothespin up onto the white yarn. Now I can begin with the lilac colored yarn. Using one of the cards that came with the machine, I'm putting all the stitches into hold except for the rightmost 2 stitches. I will knit across and back with the lilac colored yarn, putting a clothespin on it. That really helps it feed. And across and back. Then I put 2 more needles into work by making sure the latches are open and pushing them back about halfway into forward working position. And then across and back over the 4 needles. Now it's very helpful at this point to hang a claw weight because you can see that this gets longer over here and it doesn't have weight on it anymore. So I'm hanging my claw weight, putting 2 more needles into work and knitting across and back, and then 2 more. And 2 more. Two more. I'm going to do this all the way across and I'm going to add weights as needed. When I get about halfway across, it's quite apparent that the cast-on cuff, which is now running at an angle, is going to be a problem. So I'm going to remove that cuff and I'm going to hang weights all across here to hold it down rather than this cuff, which has gone crooked. When I put the last 2 stitches on the far left end into work and I knit those 2 rows, I've completed my first triangle. Now I'm going to put all the needles in hold again except the rightmost 2 needles. And I'm also going to cut the yarn and I'm going to join the white yarn and begin the second triangle. There's one other thing that I like to do at the beginning of each triangle, and that is move all the claw weights up so that they're just about an inch from the needles. all the way across. You really only have to move them once per triangle if you do it this way. Then I'm going to thread the white yarn and knit across and back over only 2 needles. And then put 2 more needles into work, opening them as I push them back, and across and back. And I will continue with the white. Doing the 2 needles at a time increase. And make a whole triangle out of the white. And here I am finishing the white triangle, getting the last 2 stitches knitted, then going back to the right. Then I'm going to cut the white yarn and I'm going to move all of these weights up so that I can begin the next lilac colored triangle. Knit across and back, 2 more stitches into work, opening the needles as I push them back, knit across and knit back, open 2 more latches, push 2 more needles into work, knit across and back, and I will continue and make the rest of the next lilac triangle. Altogether you will need to make 10 of the triangles, and it's easy to count them because of the 2 colors. So at this point I have 10 triangles done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But I have not quite finished that 10th triangle. I have the 2 needles left at the far left end. And what I'm going to do is stop before doing the final row to the right. That is, I'll go on across to the left and I stop. I'm going to go ahead and cut the yarn and move the weights up. Now I'm going to take the blanket off using waste yarn. I will do 8 rows of waste yarn. Once the waste knitting has been applied, I can cut the yarn and I can remove the knitting from the machine by just knitting across and catching. After taking the work off the machine, I need to Kitchener the beginning to the end, and I've shown this in a lot of videos, but it doesn't hurt to do a little bit again. Basically, I go and thread into a big plastic tapestry needle, and I'm going to go in the first stitch on the opposite piece of work from where the yarn came from, and then I go back to the first stitch, and I have to get that white yarn and not that skinny ravel cord on the first side, and then I draw through. I'm trying to get about the tension of a row of knitting, so not too tight. Then I go to the next clean hole on the same side and across to that first used hole. So from clean to dirty, or as I said in the tam video, from this house to the next door neighbor and then across the street. Draw that up. Now that I'm on that side, my yarn coming out over there, I want to go to the next house over on that side. Go through that loop, then back and reuse the loop on this side.